Howdy, folks. Happy Monday. There was, sorry, Ak, I muted you, which that's a tough thing to do. There you go. Just before we go to Russ in the pre-show, I just have to say this. It's like, you ever say that you sleep so deeply that you sleep through an earthquake? Well, I did that this morning because there was a 4.3 earthquake in Buffalo at about 6:30 in the morning, and I slept right through it. So
I saw pictures of rooms shaking.
Yeah, blizzards. I mean, every possible thing that can happen in Buffalo has happened, and now we got the earthquake. Now we're waiting for tornadoes and frogs falling from the sky.
Yeah, locust are next.
Exactly.
You think, oh, Mike, this could be like some kind of like karma type thing,
Sabres win the Stanley Cup because everything is happening. No. All right, go ahead, Russ. Start with the pre-show.
So let's talk about why players are not general managers. With the Brooklyn Nets, Kevin Durant gets traded there, and he wants certain players. He's like, you get me these guys, I'll win a championship. One of them was Kyrie Irving, who's been nothing but trouble for the last 2 years for a whole host of reasons that we couldn't even get to on this show and have enough time for it. But in the end, this whole thing didn't work out because Kyrie Irving demanded to be traded, and the Nets had to get rid of him. And now Kevin Durant is sort of there on his own island with not the greatest players in the world. And I don't feel bad for him. And this is why the NBA really should be looking at these things closer and trying to just basically tell teams, do not do things for the whims of your players, because not everybody's LeBron James, and 99% of the time it's not going to work out for you. And that's where I think owners need to get smarter in the NBA too, because guys are GMs for a reason. Well, players aren't GMs for a reason.
Kev, this shows how much I'm not attuned to the NBA, because I knew that he had requested a trade on Friday, and I'd seen that. And until this morning when I was listening to Bill Simmons' podcast, I didn't know he was traded. So I only found out this morning that he was traded to Dallas. But, this isn't unprecedented in sports where a player sort of like forces his way out. But Kyrie Irving is a whole different category altogether.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this play out many times in all kinds of sports. I didn't know that he was traded, and I do know kind of his history a little bit, but I'm not enough of an NBA fan to know whether the risk is warranted. Sometimes it does play out, even if the player does play out well, even if the player has had kind of a bad image beforehand, because if he ends up in the new circumstances with a chance to win, sometimes he kind of steps up and finds kind of a new path. So who knows?
This is more about Kevin Durant asking for these particular players to be on his team and having it completely fail.
Yeah, that is. Don't you think that's really just in the NBA? Because we don't see that
at this moment. It doesn't mean it can't change in sports, though.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
It could happen with like McDavid and Edmonton, or like, I'm only going to sign an 8-year deal unless you re-sign Leon Draisaitl. But this is the thing, and I'm not going to get into the weeds on the NBA because, frankly, I'm not qualified to. But in listening to enough stuff about Kyrie Irving, Russ is right. He only went to Brooklyn because Durant wanted him to. Durant left Golden State after he blew out his knee in the 2019 NBA final, and he signed a big deal with Brooklyn where he got this ridiculous deal, and he was going to sit out the next year. And part of it was bring Kyrie here and bring Harden in, and let's get all the guys together. And they ignored the point of view that Kyrie Irving is a punk. He's been a punk since Cleveland. He forced his way out of there. I'm going to sign with the Celtics, and then he ostracized himself there. He has done this over and over and over again. And the one thing I'm happy about with this deal is that he wanted to go to the Lakers to be with his buddy LeBron, and the owner of the Brooklyn Nets said, I will trade you anywhere except the Lakers. So now he's going to get his big money.
Spite's a great way to do business. Spite is a good
I know.
I get
why he's doing that.
This guy the last 2 years soaked them up so much.
What are we talking about?
Show up.
I don't even know who he is. Okay, so I don't even.
He's just a player that really refused to play a lot of during the pandemic. Wouldn't get vaccinated. A whole
okay, all right, yeah, well, there you go. But so
the owner really doesn't like him.
I guess I get that, yeah.
Because he paid this guy over the last 3 years $90 million and didn't get half the games. So it's one thing if a guy if a guy blows out his knee, he can't help that.
Right.
But when the guy doesn't want to play for certain for social injustice or for COVID or whatever, I mean, but that's what he has been. And good luck, Dallas. Enjoy him.
All right, let's get on.
Oh yeah.
Hello, Hockey World. It is Monday, February 6th, 2023.
I'm Michael Agello.
Yeah, I'm just going from Sportsology.
Kevin Allen.
Nice multimedia presentation there, Mike. Yeah. And I'm actually, you're watching HockeyBuzzCast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday, filling in the comings and goings in the hockey world. And I want to start with what I know Mike doesn't want to talk about, the All-Star game.
Oh, I want to talk about it.
We'll just talk about it for a second. No, I don't. I've been on a campaign this weekend to say that this is a good thing, and I am just getting killed everywhere on the internet.
Yeah.
I got destroyed on Twitter. I got destroyed on my website. Of saying, listen, people just don't understand what this is, why we do this. It's an astonishing thing how easy it is to hate on the internet too. So I'm sitting there and I'm watching it. Yeah. So I'm going to start with a question for the whole panel, and this is not hockey related at all.
Sure.
I've been thinking as hard as I possibly can on how to do this, how to make my point. So Mike, I know you're an Italian guy. You like your pastas. You like your pastas, right, Mike? If you're going to a restaurant, what's the best pasta you like? What's the Michael Joe? I take you to the finest restaurant in Philly, the Italian restaurant in Philly. What's your go-to?
Yeah, I mean, I personally do not order any kind of red sauce in an Italian restaurant because I make my own sauce, and I'll be wasting an hour comparing it to theirs. So I would get something like shrimp scampi.
You won't want to enjoy anybody else's sauces.
I'm so speechless over this.
Because mine's the best.
Trying to do allegories with Mike is always tough. But continue on, Mike.
Say shrimp scampi or fettuccine alfredo or something like that. Yeah.
Okay, so shrimp scampi. Okay, shrimp scampi. That's good. Russell, what's your go-to Italian?
Yeah, I'll do fettuccine because I'm not doing fettuccine at home. It's harder to pull off. Okay. I love penne, but penne is easy enough for me to pull off at home too.
Are you looking at like a red sauce?
Yeah, red or white, doesn't matter. Whatever you got going. I love the blush sauces, so it could be either or.
You guys like a good garlic bread, Mike? You like a good garlic
bread? Yes.
Right. Okay. How about you, Kevin? What do you get?
Salmon vodka sauce is what I like.
Yeah, the vodka sauce is great. I do that with shrimp too.
I love. I'm a penny vodka guy too. I like vodka sauce a ton. I'll get penny vodka with shrimp or what have you. And there you go. So we all agree that that's the best. That's our best Italian food, right?
Yeah.
But we all like pizza, right? We all like pizza. Yeah. Pizza, which is also red sauce.
Yeah, I don't like where this is going, but all right.
Red sauce, cheese, and bread too, right? Now, if you have a bunch of people over, Mike, and you're not, and you're not allowed to make your red sauce. No one's gonna have red sauce because no one's allowed to have any other red sauce there is. So you have them over to the house, and you're not gonna make your finest. You're not gonna make your finest thing for everybody. You're gonna probably have people helping you move. You're gonna make them pizza. All right. So here's the point.
Yeah.
Okay. The point is that there's a lot of ways to serve things, and we have the best hockey that we want, the penne and vodka sauce, 90% of the time, and almost all year long, constantly, and that's what we want. But there are these players. There is another way to look at these players. There's another thing for these guys to do, and that's what this whole thing is about. It's about pizza. It's not about the finest thing in the world. It's about what everybody likes, which is pizza. Everybody likes pizza. So people who don't even like hockey enjoy watching this. They enjoy seeing guys shoot surfboards out of the desert. They enjoy off the beach. They enjoy watching guys play golf with hockey sticks. There's a lot of good stuff that happens.
Let me chop.
Did they enjoy that? I question that.
Let me chop through this because some pizza sucks.
All right.
There's some pizza that's great, and there's some pizza that sucks. And I
like point, right? There's a time to have pizza.
No, I get that. I will say this.
Yeah,
I think what we got as fans was the Olive Garden version of the NHL.
Right.
Okay, but no, I don't think so. It wasn't just a worse version of what you'd like. It was a totally different thing. If it was we used to get a worse version of what we liked when we just had two teams play each other in a hockey game. That was played at half speed where no one hit each other. They were less than half speed 3-on-3. That was what was bothering me. That's the Olive Garden, Russ. This is not the Olive Garden. This is pizza. This is everybody out there, even people don't like some people don't like fancy Italian food. Everybody likes pizza.
Let me, and I want to get Kevin's viewpoint on this, but I have learned, I have been able to evolve. Okay, I have learned from the all-wise great Kevin Allen that the All-Star Game is not for me. And I don't watch it because it's not for me. It's All-Star Weekend. It's for advertisers. It's for whatever. It's a league event. I get that, and I don't watch the All-Star Game because it's not hockey. It's not shinny. It's practice. It's like they're doing things that they would normally they wouldn't do. So I don't watch it. I do watch the skills competition, and I've been entertained by it in the years past.
Yeah.
This one, and I'll cut into Russ here, and then I'm going to get Kevin. This one was dreadful, not only for the fact that the highlight was Sergei Ovechkin. There's nobody if you don't have a heart to watch a 4-year-old kid deke through Roberto Luongo. I don't know. You're not human.
I was waiting, Mike. I was waiting for you to piss on Sergei Ovechkin's son. So go.
But it was. The golf thing was ridiculous. I didn't think they presented certain events that have normally been entertaining well. And the number one thing, they should never hold a league event in Florida ever again. That crowd, there were 3,000 people in that building when normally for skills competition it's sold out. It was ridiculous. They should never. They went there for the weather, great. But if you're going there to show off the game of hockey and the NHL, that was an embarrassment to the league that they had 3,000 people in the stands. An embarrassment.
All right, Russ, you want to continue this trend?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've covered many All-Star games. There are ones that I like. Mm-hmm. I felt like other than the accuracy, fastest skater, hardest shot, it was almost unwatchable. The skits were bad. The fact that they kept stringing along the final results of the three things that people show up for was a horrible idea. I did
not like the way it was produced. Like where we
that had a lot to do with it.
I do like one event ending, one event ending, one event ending. I do agree with that. This was done more like a reality show a little bit.
There wasn't much practice from the players as far as for the skits. I get why, but there wasn't much preparation by ESPN either, and I don't get why. And so it all showed, and I've been hard pressed to find anybody that really enjoyed it other than the few things here, Ovechkin's kid, a few moments in the game, but that's it. Like I have a feeling these ratings are going to be dreadful. Because I think we all turned it off after a while.
Kevin, do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I do. I mean, Mike's right on when he assessed where I am on this. It's not my cup of tea.
Right.
I have never enjoyed covering it. I do like the hardest shot and the fastest skater, but it's not enough to get me to tune in and watch it. I don't have to be involved anymore, so I'm not. I don't like to go to things that would make me angry. This wouldn't make me angry, but like I would never do what Mike does, which is just tune in, because he likes to get angry. I mean, look how worked up he got. He admits he doesn't care about the NBA, and yet when he talked about the player that we talked about, he was just all worked up. He's a punk. We got to get rid of him. I think that's part of his enjoyment of sports is he wants to work up an anger about it, and he gets angry over these things. I can't get care that much in order to do it. I think it's really kind of made for the people who are there. I've seen enough, they say there was only 3,000 people, but based on the number of people that have commented on social media, I would think there were thousands and thousands of people who tuned in. They all seem to have seen every moment of it.
It was full for the game, Kev. It wasn't full for the skills. That's how.
No, it was full for the. But I mean, I've looked on and people have said, I never watched that, and yet I've seen chapter and verse on everything that happened on the thing that goes on. So some people must be watching it. I will say that I saw. I wouldn't call it the highlights, but I saw a presentation the next morning on it. I thought there was some cuteness there with Ovi, and despite the fact that everybody's criticized the golf, I was amused to see the interview with Suzuki, who said he hadn't had a par all year, and he got one to win the the lifetime or the 1 year subscription to eating food at Chipotle.
Yeah. I mean, I love that too. And I think that here's the thing, like Mike's psychological deep-seated issues aside, we had just the thing about this, the deeper part of it is this: like, it's not we watch hockey, we live hockey, we breathe hockey too much because it's our job. It's what we do. It's our reality. We have to be a part of it all the freaking time, right? And at times we see the repetition of it. We see the mundaneness of a regular season. We see the mundane. I mean, it's all there. We still love it at the end of the day. We still when you get into arena, the crowd goes crazy. Everything's exciting. We still love it, but it's like we live it. We are not the ones that this is for at all. Right. We are not. This is not. But fans are different than us. Okay, the fans are different than us. Fans enjoy games way more than we do, probably sometimes. Like you watch fans, you're like, wow, they're really excited. You know, we have been forced into it so much that it does become a little bit jaded.
I mean, read the chat room. The chat room is not very positive about it.
Nobody is. I don't know if anybody.
Okay, we've all learned the internet by now. Okay, we all know what the internet's about. We all know that no one talks when they're happy about something. No one says, "I loved it." You know, like if I did that and I got killed, and that's why no one ever says they love it because they get killed.
Would you admit that if we see, like Russ said, if we see a dramatic downturn in the ratings, that maybe in a few years, and it keeps going in that direction, maybe in a few years the NHL goes the way of the NFL, and they have an all-star competition with skills competitions and that, and they don't do a game because the game is brutal. Now,
next year they need to think it out better. I don't
think they care about the ratings. I don't think they care about making money.
No, they care about the ratings.
They care about the ratings.
ABC doesn't want to show something that gets a point.
Yeah, I would say this. I'm with Ack on this. Only this: if the ratings were still brutal, they would still keep doing it. Like
they would do it. It might not be on ABC. It might be on ESPN.
Right. Well, that's the thing. It won't be on.
Yeah,
ABC.
I don't know. Again, I feel bad because I can't even talk about this intelligently because I just simply didn't watch it. But was Subban as bad as people say?
No, Subban was fine.
Okay.
That's part of their broadcast.
Yeah, I want to be critical of it for a second because the guys will love this part of it. Okay, I freaking hate the breakaway competition right now. The whole.
That was brutal.
Okay, and this is why I hate it.
The rules were so convoluted.
Guys wearing suits, the whole coming out is whatever. To me, there's a problem. These guys, when they're on the ice playing hockey, just play hockey, right? You might not be the best hockey, but just don't try to be something else on the ice. Like the whole fact that we have like Disney on ice and the escapades and all that stuff. There's a long story about that, and it's really not everything needs to be on ice, But when they do this thing and they have it, I want the breakaway competition to be a straight up breakaway competition. I do. I think that I love that part of it, the game. But what I liked about the skills competition is the golf and the beach stuff. Because when you take these guys, somebody said, well, the problem with these guys is they're all boring. And they're not boring. They're boring because we know them. We know they're not boring. They're boring because they've been taught to be polite, be direct, be real.
They're not.
But when you take them out of their element and put them on the beach and put them in a golf thing, like with Jason Robinson, you actually saw a little bit of Jason Robinson's personality more than I've ever seen it before in that golf thing. Like when I see Jason Robertson, is the worst interview in the NHL. When you watch him being interviewed in between periods, he's horrendous.
But here's the only thing, Eck. With ESPN, you can't turn these players into something they're not. And so, as an example, when you got Nathan McKinnon on the bench and Emily Kaplan tries to yuck it up on his first goal, saying you're really on a heater, he's not going to play along with that because
that's the problem, Russ. You're absolutely right. You can't make them what they're not. What you can do is put them in positions to succeed. But it's ESPN's job to make events and the NHL's job to make events that bring out the realness of these guys.
I've heard. Well, wait. Even when you have players who are real, like Jack Hughes. Jack Hughes, if you listen to him in interviews, he's a great interview. He's really funny. He's really sort of glib. Emily Kaplan, it was either Emily or Kevin Weeks, during the game goes to Jack Hughes and says something about like, you seem to be on a real straight. And he was like, yeah. Or it was about him being born in Florida. Yeah, I was born in Florida. He didn't want to talk. He's in the middle of a game.
No, I agree. But I'm not.
That's what I'm saying. If you want to crack jokes like that, it's going to fall flat. It is.
Listen, I agree that
and it doesn't make for a good broadcast.
The network's inability to read the room is obvious. Like,
I don't know. Is it obvious? ESPN didn't know that.
No, it's not, because they can't do it. That's what I'm saying. They can't read the room. So it's like, if you had smarter people in charge of this who figured out this is when we have fun with these guys, and this is when we let them do their thing. I don't know why they're.
They love the dunk tank. That's fine. Players had fun with that. I get it. I have no problem with the dunk tank.
Just with a goalie stick, try to fire at targets and hit them. And that was on the beach. That was pretty freaking awesome.
And Kev, I think the criticism of Subban, he's just separated from being a player. He was sort of polarizing. I think the only thing that I would criticize is whoever did his wardrobe, or he was dressed in a creamsicle suit. It was not exactly flattering, but he was fine. I mean, Emily Kaplan was fine. Kevin Weeks was fine. It's just really contrived, and it's really it's cringy at some points. Now, next year, it's in Toronto. I'll bet you anything, bottom dollar, every seat will be filled in Scotiabank Arena. Everyone.
Yeah, they usually are. Yeah,
but it's different. But see, PK, you're right about the player thing. But the other thing you have to realize about PK really strongly is it's the same problem I used to have when I used to talk to Kevin about my problems with Roenick on because it's like just because you're a great interviewer doesn't mean you're a great interviewee. You know what I mean? It's like or a great interviewee, I should say. It doesn't mean you're a great interviewer, right? Like Subban is fascinating to listen to talk. You ask him questions, he's got great quick witty responses. Interviewing is not about that. Interviewing is about making the guy you're interviewing look better and setting him up in a way that he can talk great. So when you become the story as the interviewer, that's when it starts to look obnoxious.
But I'm going to tell you what I think the difference will be in Toronto. I don't think they're going to rely as heavily on gimmicks. I don't think they're going to be – maybe they'll do something dumb at the CN Tower, but I don't even think they're going to. I think they're going to rely on players, some of the past greats. I think they're going to work all of that in, and they're not going to be on the beach.
Yeah, that's different because it's a different place.
No, but it's not different. It's the same game.
It's a different
every time they try and gimmick it up, it doesn't work well.
Yeah, well,
Go ahead, Kevin.
Here's what I would say about it all. Like, I'm not sure that, ever since it was decreed or that the players started to feel that they didn't want to take any risk at these things, it's been impossible, in my opinion, to create any kind of real competitive environment. Yeah. We even see that with the fastest skater. The reason guys pull out, there are two reasons. One is they don't want to be embarrassed if they lose. But they also don't want to pull anything, trying to go that fast. So even that, which is a pretty good event, in my opinion. Yes. And, there are 2 or 3 legitimate events. The hardest shot competition is legitimate. Fastest skater is legitimate. The accuracy is good. But I don't even the breakaway, when I used to cover it, these guys are not doing their best stuff in those situations. No, so probably what I said, this was years ago, what I would have done once we've crossed that bridge, because we're not going back. You can either do one or two things. You could turn the game into, but even this has drawbacks, an international event. You could do KHL All-Stars versus NHL All-Stars. Yeah. But then again, if you're a team, do you want to lose a guy to an injury in an All-Star game in the middle of the season? Right. So even that has drawbacks, although I think the teams would get pretty fired up. You want to prove you're better than Russian players and all that. But the other thing I would have done is I would keep the traditional ones that we all like, the fastest skater, and then I would do odd things, like I'd set up a bowling lane and I'd let guys bowl. Right. I would putt. Not with hockey sticks, but real putters. I have it closest to the pin contest. I would put these guys sort of like a superstars.
No, that's what I would do too. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, but you can't. Even the superstars is limited in what you can do, because
it was better if they played golf than if they played hockey on the golf course. I'm with you.
Yeah, no. So they'd have to find the sports where there's little, or pinball, or. You could have leading up to it a tournament with the video game of hockey. Something of that nature. That really try to make it a little bit more entertaining. And you could say, well, people wouldn't want to see that, but in the real world, in gaming, they fill up arenas of 50,000 people to do that. So anyway, that's, if I was king, that's what I do. But I, now that I don't have to go and cover it, I simply don't watch. It's really not me. So
I want to. We can do this tomorrow about the conference playoff format because a lot of stuff came up about that we can talk about that tomorrow. But I wanted to get to the big news of the weekend and what kind of ramifications it will have, and that was the Bo Horvat signing because for those who are 8-year max deal, $8.5 million. So he got a year more and a $500,000 more a year than JT Miller got from the Canucks.
Yeah, now, and he fit between. I mean, I'm watching this closely, obviously, because of the Larkin situation.
Right.
But we're looking at the most recent signings. And Rupin's 8.4. Right. Now he's at 8.5. Barzal at 9.1. Now those are all what I would consider recent signings.
Yeah.
And I don't know, who would you take, Rupin or Bo Horvat?
I'd take Hintz, but
I would too. I would too. I thought. That I don't think 8.5 is out of line with that, but I'd rather have Hintz.
Well, okay, it's not out of line based on comparables, but it's out of line for Horvat. And this is the thing. I talked to Russ about this. I like Bo Horvat. I think he's a really good player. Do I think he's an $8.5 million center? No, he's a number 2 center. He's maxed out because he had a 30-goal year last year. He's on pace for 40 this year. He's having a career year, and he got paid based on a career year. He's not the player that he is right now. But in a free market,
he's had 2 30-goal years, though.
Yeah, that's not just like an enough.
Right. You know what my answer for that is? The common denominator for that is Quinn Hughes. And Quinn Hughes is an extraordinary guy on the power play, extraordinary for passing it. The Islanders don't have anybody extraordinary. They have very good players like Barzal and Dobson. And Horvat probably goes back to his 53, 60 points. Yeah. But in the end, he's not this guy without some of the guys he was playing with. And I even asked some people, Kev, and I'll ask you, if he's on the open market, do you think he gets 8.5 by 7? Because I don't think he would.
Oh, for sure he would. Yeah. No. The Red Wings were prepared to pay him for sure. But I would say this. Mike's playing the role of Steve Yzerman. Which is a pretty interesting, a guy. That is essentially Yzerman's position as well, is I don't want to live in the world of comparables. He says, I want to pay a guy what I think he's worth.
No, and that's true.
But unfortunately, that's not the way the NHL operates. Arbitrations, comparables.
Yeah, everything is comparable. You're right. There's always been that.
And the comparable system that we have in place, whether we like it or not, doesn't take into account who you play with. Now, you can make that case, but really what happens at the end when you make your case about, well, this guy's, he's playing with guys that I think they say, the points are the points. That's the problem. So, I think Mike's points are valid. Your points are valid about who he's going to be with or who he isn't going to be with, but that's really not how it works.
Here's the thing, Kevin, you're absolutely right. And it's funny, I talked to a guy who's a general manager now, used to be an agent years ago. And when he was an agent, he had a guy going through arbitration. I remember talking to him about this. And he said, we use the comparable. He's like, and the one thing that frustrates the hell out of me is no one seems to understand that players are worth different things to different teams.
For sure.
When I sit back and I can argue that he's worth more to you than he's worth to anybody else, the other team's like, but no one's going to pay him that. Yeah, but he's still worth more to you than he is anybody else. It doesn't matter if they're going to pay him that or not. The fact is, you let him go, you lose that much value. But and he goes somewhere else and signs for less money, sure. But
Lou didn't love the signing.
Yeah, Horvat's worth a lot to the Islanders because they need.
He didn't love the signing, but he did it. Why did he do it, Russ?
He did it because of ownership. He did the same thing with the Devils and Kovalchuk.
No, he did it because that's what the market said.
No, I don't think so. I think he did it the same way he appeased ownership in New Jersey with Kovalchuk. I think he appeased ownership with the Islanders to do this, and that's why I think he saw a
27-year-old quality captain on the rise.
No, but this is a trend with Lou over the last few years. He goes out and he signs Patrick Marleau at 6.5 for an extra year. Why? Because they wanted him in the here and the now, but they'll worry about the problem down the road. And then when they have to trade a first-round pick to get rid of him, that's not on Lou. He overpays on Barzal. He overpays on Kyle Palmieri. He overpays on Pajot. Now he's overpaid on Horvat. And when the chickens come home to roost, he's going to be in Florida drinking a Mai Tai.
Yeah, but did he really overpay? I don't think he did.
I think he did
I think it's in the ballpark.
Yeah.
I just don't. I mean, I'm looking at his numbers right now. So
it's not a dramatic overpay, Kev, but
yeah, no, it really isn't. I mean, it's a comparable. I mean, he's had 30 goals for 2 consecutive years, and the year before he had 19 goals and 39 points in 56 games. So that was the shortened season. So when you put that out, that's approaching 30. 2 years before that, he had 27. He's more of a goal scoring center, which we all agree are more difficult to find than a playmaking center. So I don't know. I mean, I think it was in the ballpark. I don't think he loved the idea of giving him that, but I think he respected the fact if he was going to sign him. I mean, he had to give up something to prevent him from going.
His agent said, "You have to take this deal. Like you're not getting another deal,
or you're going to lose him." But that's part of it. I mean, it's like Dale Talon used to tell me when he goes, the media criticizes me when I don't sign anybody, but the only way I can sign anybody is if I overpay. So when I overpay to get the guy, what do you guys do? You criticize me for overpaying.
Kevin, who's better, Bo Horvat or Dylan Larkin?
I would say they're comparable players.
See, I think because of Larkin's speed, I would take Larkin. I like Horvat a lot.
Well, I probably would too, but I don't think you can say one is.
Well, you're not. He just basically his contract has just gotten carved out.
But their roles are different. See, that this is the thing. Horvat's going to be a number 2 with the Islanders. Larkin is a number 1 with the Wings. That means he should. But Yzerman
says or thinks he's a number 2.
Right.
So he actually. Speaking of that, we haven't even talked about this. We haven't talked about this, but this is a very big thing.
Yeah.
In Detroit, they put the lines out. I don't know if they do it in all arenas now, but they have the line sheets.
They do.
And for the start of the season, just like it was all of last season, the Larkin line was listed as the number 1 line. About, I would say, a month ago, out of nowhere, Larkin suddenly became the number 2 line.
Wow.
Now, do you think the PR people did that on their own?
Nope.
Or do you think that was they were told to do that?
They were instructed.
Who was listed as the number 1 center?
The Cop line.
Oh my God! Yeah,
and the Cop line. So anyway, and that has been sort of, and you know what? There's always an argument on social media that Larkin is more about he's either a 1B or a really good second line center. So because he's not the ideal playmaker. But my argument is he gets a lot of shots, and shots create scoring opportunities.
That's it. Yeah. No.
So
I think they're very comparable. I agree with you. They're both like either a 1B or a very good second line center.
Yeah, I think the only difference is, I mean, you can argue that Larkin's not quite as good defensively as Bo Horvat, but Larkin is a 53% face-off guy. And he's the best defensive player when he plays with Raymond and Bertuzzi. He's by far the best defensive player on that line. So,
okay, we're going to do our game here, but we can.
One quick thing on Horvat, real quick, before that, Mike, and then the last thing on Horvat, real fast, okay? Because I really do think that this is an $8.5 million player for Lou Lamoriello.
Okay.
Every which way, like he sees him as a good defensive player. He's a captain. He's young, and I think that he has said
he's
before.
Not going to be the captain.
But other people have said before, if you're going to overpay for somebody, make sure that player has at least character that you're overpaying for.
Okay, I mean he has a lot of character.
Numbers, but you're overpaying for characters. Go ahead, Mike.
I think character is important. I also think talent's important. Okay.
Well, I think Horvat's plenty.
Talented. I just don't think he's $8.5 million talented.
Right.
Anyway.
Well, what would you pay him, Mike?
I thought Maxey was going to get 8 times 8. I thought so you're paying $500,000 more, and that in the cap world right now, that's not chicken feed. That's important. So
they could not have signed him for $8 million.
No,
right.
That's the problem.
I want to point out something to the chat room too. You cannot equate number 1 defenseman or top pairing defenseman salaries to center salaries. They're different salaries,
and you also can't equate what Bo Horvat is getting with John Tavares, because John Tavares was a number 1 overall pick and is a better goal scorer and a better overall player than.
He's a better player.
Well, Mike's getting worked up.
Well, no, because there's the Maple Leafs are paying $11 million for number 2 center. Yeah, he's the only. Are you kidding me? He's a number 1. When they signed him 5 years ago, he would have been a number 1 center on.
They haven't gotten the money's worth. They haven't gotten $11 million a year out of the way.
No, 11's high. 11's high. It is.
I would say for sure that the Red Wings would pay $8.5 million for
Larkin,
because they were in on the Horvat.
Yeah. You don't think Lou knew that? I mean, Lou pays that money to keep him away from July 1st.
I think he paid that money because he had to.
Yeah,
like I know what he said. I'm not sure. I mean, maybe Russ is right. Maybe ownership saying anything, and I know that it's hard for Lou to give out that kind of money when his salary cap's that tight. But I think he knows that it was either give him 8.5 or he was going to test free agency.
100%. Right, and then that deal would be ridiculous because they gave up all that for a rental. Yeah, truth is always interlaced in jest, and I think that Lou, he was like, I gave him a year too much, and he didn't want to do that deal, but he had to because of what they gave up for.
It's the market, yeah.
The market. Now, okay, we're going to do our game with proposed trades. But interlaced in that is the rumor that Eck put up, and he had Chicago, so it almost fits perfectly, Eck, because you had a rumor about Patrick Kane.
Yeah, I talked to somebody yesterday who was at the All-Star game. I was not at the All-Star game this year, but I would talk to somebody yesterday who was, and they said a big rumor was going around, and that really made a ton of sense, was that Patrick Kane could now be heading to Vegas. And because of the Mark Stone injury, keeping Mark Stone out for the rest of the year, clearing his cap space off the rest of the year, he's kind of a perfect rental. And says, remember, this is Bill Foley, and he wrote this thing that I stole today, which he said this thing that I kind of stole today. Bill Foley is the closest thing we have to Ed Snyder now in the NHL, which is true. Like he's a guy who's older, who wants to win, who absolutely says leave tomorrow for tomorrow. We'll do what we have to do today, and we're gonna be competitive. We're gonna win, right? And it's the kind of owner that every fan should want to have. But not always the greatest for the team long term because there's consequences to pay down the line. But the fact that they are suddenly missing Stone and missing that money, and that fact is going to be LTIR for the rest of the season and probably be back for the playoffs, starts leading you into directions where Patrick Kane makes a lot of sense.
I don't know if he's going to be back for the playoffs because it's a back surgery, so it could be, and it's what 2.5 months.
I mean, it's a big enough surgery that you can definitely say he's out for the year.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to keep it open-ended because we've seen players do remarkable things, but I'm with Mike. I mean, it's likely that he's out, but the fact that they've opened the door just a crack, it would take them at the word. You may be absolutely right, Eklund, because, Pat Brisson is his agent. He was at the All-Star game. Things have changed with everything. But I was told late last week that Patrick Kane, without question, wants to go to New York.
Yeah, that's true.
That he wants to go to New York. Now, that doesn't mean they can't talk him into going to Vegas, but and it makes some sense. Yeah. So,
and there's no reason he can't sign in New York next year because Vegas is going to look at him like a rental. Right? They're going to take him. They'll take him as a rental.
So are they going to trade Brendan Brisson for a rental? I mean, Brendan Brisson played for the Chicago Steel, so he certainly knows Chicago. Are you really going to give up that price?
Hold. Yeah, you got to hope it. When did the Brisson rumor come out? I have not seen that.
No, I'm saying that's the Vegas have to trade.
That's their best prospect.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I have not seen anything about them.
No, I haven't either, Ken. But I'm just saying logically.
I'll just be honest. I talked to Brisson, and I happened to ask him about his son. So he didn't say that his son was going to move anywhere.
No. Okay, but so let's say Brendan somehow gets spared, and it's Zach Dean and Danil Chaika. It's not enough. Like they don't have enough to get Patrick Kane.
Well, they do have their number ones the next 2 years. So
okay, great.
Right. Well, no, but Russ.
Yeah.
But they're not winning the Stanley Cup. If they
I know that, but okay, we're talking about an owner, like Eck was saying. We're talking about an owner single-minded in purpose. I want to win a cup before I die. So does he care? This
isn't going to win the cup, though. That's the funny thing.
Well, you know that, and I know that.
It doesn't matter. Is he going to?
Doesn't matter. That's what he wants.
It doesn't matter. It will.
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because We don't know.
I get what you're saying as far as his mindset, but I'm telling you, it's going to matter, and it's going to matter sooner rather than later.
Last year we had the same discussion. That no way would they get Jack Eichel. remember this. The whole thing is exactly the same. Like, how did they get Jack Eichel? They don't have any salary.
They did, but they can't keep doing it.
Yeah, but Russ, I mean, you can't discount the fact that he is 79 years old.
Exactly.
He wants to win.
I get it.
I mean, what you're saying is the consequences are imminent. There's no disputing that, but it may not dictate what he's going to do.
Imminent, like it could really.
Yeah, but the guy's 79. He's not thinking about that. That's the only point.
When the check comes due in 3 or 4 years, that organization is going to be an absolute train wreck, but he doesn't care. He wants to win, and that's all that matters to him. So,
I mean,
he's
really made that clear. I don't know how much more clear he can make it.
Is there a better
but don't you think he should actually talk to people and say, do you think this could get us a Stanley Cup win if we get this player? And this is Patrick Kane at this age with an injury. Like, to me, it's just like you could do better than that.
He's almost in first place right now, Russ. I mean, his team's close to first place right now. Why would you think that Patrick Kane
first place in the regular season doesn't put you in the Stanley
Why wouldn't you think that they're at least a cup contender?
They're a cup contender, sure. There's like 6 cup contenders.
But then you have Patrick Kane, like one of the best playoff players ever out there.
But he's not Patrick Kane of before right now. He's not. He's not even close to that.
The thing
the numbers show it.
I mean, what I would say is, Russ, if there were shareholders into this team and you were a shareholder and you came to the table and said everything, and I would say you're absolutely right. But I'm the controlling partner and I want to win. And that's what I'm going to do. I mean, that seems to be his business. I mean, he's been public about his desire to win now. Like, he's not like, pretending that he's not, that he's maybe, he wouldn't say this, but, that he's maybe being a little irresponsible. But he has said, look, I'm trying to win now. So
now, while I think
win now with a different player, you're taking an older player with injuries.
While I think the rumor about him, about Kane in Vegas is plausible, it smacks to me like the Giroux rumors to Colorado. If Giroux wants only to go to Florida, that's where he's going. And if Kane only wants to go to New York, that's where he's going, or he's staying in Chicago.
There's a difference with that, okay? Giroux always wanted to go to Ottawa, okay? Everybody knew that last year. We all knew that for a couple of years, that Giroux wanted to play in Ottawa. Okay, so
at some point in his career, yes.
Right. We know that Patrick Kane wants to go to New York. That's been – then Kevin further enhanced that. Then I've heard nothing but that since the beginning too, right?
Right.
But so New York's involved in this. He's going to spend the next, say, 8 years in New York or 7 years in New York, right? Or whatever contract he's going to sign in New York next year.
But no, he's not. Nobody's signing Kane to that contract.
All right, let's say
2 years, 3 years.
3 years. Give it whatever you want to give it. Okay, he's going to spend a substantial amount of time in New York over the next couple of years trying to win a Stanley Cup with that team. All right. Doesn't it behoove you a little bit to not strip that team that you're going to go to of assets? And if this team wants you bad enough to play just for the rest of this year in Vegas and go there and don't, hell to be sold, like, listen, I mean, Giroux simply said he didn't want to go to Colorado or Florida. It wasn't like he was going to Colorado or Ottawa. But
at the one thing, your point is valid. But the one thing is this: in a rigged game, in a closed market where Giroux can force himself to go to Florida. Florida didn't give up what Giroux was actually worth. They gave up a first-round pick and Owen Tippett. If Kane wants to go to New York is not going to be giving up the value that they would have to give up if Patrick Kane was being shopped to everywhere.
Whoa! You think they gave up? I think they gave up more than they should have given up for Giroux.
No,
they got given up a first-round pick for Giroux. They didn't have to.
Yes, they did.
They didn't. No, Giroux's not Patrick Kane.
He's got more points than Patrick Kane. He's got 48 points in 50 games.
This year,
He's
sure.
Better than Patrick Kane right now.
Remember, Vegas is also a town that's driven on buzz, right? And the buzz of bringing Patrick Kane to town is a big frigging deal.
Yeah, but he has to sign off on it, and that's what I'm saying. If he doesn't sign off on it, I don't care what the buzz is. I don't care what the buzz is of him going to Dallas. If he wants to go to New York and that's the only place he wants to go, then that's the only place he's going to go. He's got a no-move clause. He controls the agenda here.
The only place he's going to go eventually because he controls where he signs a contract next year.
Right, but okay, Kev, it behooves Kyle Davidson as the GM of the Hawks. If you have a guy whose contract is expiring and he's got a no-move clause, if you have the option of either getting a third-round pick and something now or losing him for nothing in free agency, you're going to trade him for what you can get at the deadline because it's something.
Well, yeah, for sure. I mean, they're going to have to listen to him. I mean, but they're going to ask him to be reasonable. They will try to make an effort to say, look, give us a couple or three options. Don't, hamstring us. But he doesn't have to do that.
He doesn't have to.
So I mean, we'll have to see kind of what happens. But
you're going to get an injured Patrick Kane. You're going to hope a guy coming off back surgery and all that, just to hope to even play in the Stanley Cup, which I think is a big, big hope.
He calls up Eichel and he says, Eichel, my USA friend, what's it like to play in Vegas? He's like, Eichel's like, it's amazing here. Like, you'll love it just for a couple months and go to playoff run. This would be incredible. I mean, does that kill you to go to that team for a couple months and try to win?
No, I don't think it kills him. I don't think. In the end, I don't think that kills Patrick Kane. No.
I mean, if he wants a legitimate chance of winning a Stanley Cup in the West, it's going to be Colorado or Dallas ahead of Vegas. But whatever.
Yeah,
right. Well, maybe those teams aren't. Maybe Colorado and Dallas might be interested in him too. But Vegas now is a motivated buyer. Okay, they are motivated because they've lost Mark Stone, which is a huge loss for them. They're motivated and they have suddenly cap space to maybe pull off like a thing where they have Stone and Kane playing together in the playoffs. That's
or they could make two moves. They have $9.5 million cap space on LTIR. So, but okay. So let's. So what are you thinking they would get for Kane in that deal?
Definitely one first-round draft pick, and I would say along the lines of the two prospects you're talking about.
Brisson.
You talked about Russ, not Brisson.
Not Brisson. Okay, like Chaika or
Chaika, because these guys don't mean anything to Foley at all. Brisson will mean something to him because not only is he Patrick Brisson's son, but he's like, he's like, okay, he knows he's watched him in the juniors.
He's a prospect.
Yeah, so I think a first round draft pick and two of those.
Zach Dean's a really good player. Brisson's better, but Dean's
I think those two and a first round draft.
Those are only two great prospects. That's it.
Okay,
those two prospects and a first round draft pick will get Patrick Kane to Vegas. Yes.
Kev, Colorado was one of your teams. What did you come up with for a proposed trade?
Well, I think they're going to go for center, and I think we've heard a lot of buzz about Monahan being a possibility, but I also think Taves is in the mix as well. But I would guess, and I got this from kind of talking to people around the league a little bit, although I did not talk to the Blackhawks about this, but I have a sense that people see Taves as, we're not going to overpay to get Taves.
Right.
So, like, I could see Colorado saying, I'll give you a first round pick for Taves. You eat half the salary, and that's it. I mean, we're not going beyond that. And if they don't get Taves, but I wouldn't rule out Monahan. I think they're intrigued a little bit about what he has done in the past and the fact that he's been better this season, and they're kind of into. So I think but even that deal, I think it would be they're not giving up Bo Byram in this in either of those scenarios. So I think it will be draft picks that they'll be offering, and maybe a B prospect.
Okay.
That's what I think they'll do. Either one of those two players.
Russ, how about Minnesota?
So for Minnesota, based on what dead cap and other situations they have next year too, trade Carson Lambos, who's really talented, first round pick, fast skating defenseman, scores points. Trade him to Columbus for Gavrikov if you can get Gavrikov signed, because he makes less than Dumba or will make less than Dumba,
right?
And you plugged up that hole for next year too.
Yeah, that's smart. Since I'll piggyback on what Kevin was saying, because everybody's talked about Taves in Winnipeg, and that was where I was going, and I had Taves going to Winnipeg with 50% retained for a conditional 2024 first round pick that would go down to a second if or a second that would go up to a first if they got to the conference final, because I believe Winnipeg could fit his salary at 50%, and I think they have a chance. They're a dark horse in the West. Everything would have to go right, but I think Taves would really help Winnipeg take the next step.
Definitely enormous buzz in that city, Mike, about Taves. About when people I know with season tickets, they say this all they talk about in the arena. When we get Jonathan Taves here, it's almost like this assumption, which is which is putting a lot of pressure on Shovelday up there to make that happen. I think in some ways,
right.
I think you might drive the price up to where Colorado wouldn't want to go.
Now, San Jose made a minor trade on the weekend, moving Magna to Seattle, but we think that there are bigger deals there. What did you come up with for San Jose? Was it Meyer? Was it?
No, I mean, I really went back and forth on this one because with Meyer and Carlson, because I think that I've been told that Carlson's going to get traded at the deadline now. I've been told that that's going to happen. And that sounds astonishing, but
that would blow my doors off. I just can't.
Who's being moved?
Erik Karlsson will be moved at the deadline, and I was told that by 2 different GMs, who both have said they've had discussions with different people that Karlsson's name is out there, and that people are coming up with creative ways of making it work. And it's going to happen. And now, listen, if it doesn't, it might not happen, but it's rare that people, and many of these teams are involved in it, by the way, but they have heard, just from talking to people, they think there's enough buzz that they both think, one said it's definitely going to happen. The other says, I would be shocked if it didn't happen. That's literally what they said. Wow. So therefore, I think Karlsson is, and I don't know how, like he has in the chat room. I don't know how. I mean, I'm not like capologist. I'm not like the guy who's going to make this happen. So that's why it's hard to make a Karlsson trade. Exactly, because I'm trying to sit there and figure out how I would do it. There's one person who told me that Detroit was interested in him, Kevin, and I thought that was surprising.
Not a chance in hell.
Okay, good.
I think he'll get. I think he'll get traded if he doesn't get hurt between now and the end of the year. But San Jose is not going to get 3 first-round picks like that ridiculous.
No one's saying that's going to happen.
And they're going to have to retain significant amount of money.
Everyone says that's going to happen, and the third team may have to get involved as well to retain salary. But they're saying incredibly creative ways of happening. So Kevin, if they got it down to $3.5 million a year by going through a third team, Yzerman doesn't make that move at all.
I would be surprised even still. I mean, their strength of their rebuild has been they have good young defensemen coming.
Yeah.
They don't have any forwards. So
I know. I thought the same thing. I'm like,
so I don't know. I mean,
good Swedish young defenseman coming, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I just don't know why that would fit. Unless if Sherratt went back and they ate half the salary, and suddenly they were looking at 5.5, then it's just Sherratt for Karlsson. Then, yeah,
why not, right? I mean, if that, you get to that point, you're like, okay, is Karlsson a good mentor for all of our other young Swedish defensemen? It's like, does that play into it at all? I mean, you have like,
yeah, I think Karlsson's actually a good guy. So I think, that would be, they wouldn't take a straight 6.5 deal unless, like I said, if it would make sense, like if they were willing to take, Sherratt back, or something like that, where, because the Yzerman is big on trying to assign people with the value that he thinks they're worth. So I'm reasonably sure, as impressed that he may have been in watching Karlsson play, I'm pretty sure he doesn't believe he's worth anywhere near $11 million. So,
there's no way. That's like, they all say that. Listen, it's not. We're not talking about $11 million here. We're talking about.
I think he would have a hard time paying him $8 million. So.
Because Russ has to go at 1 p.m. sharp. Russ, look, did you get your Nashville?
For Nashville, New Jersey, I got Nashville willing to trade Nino Niederreiter to New Jersey for Damon Severson if they could sign Severson. I think it benefits both teams. Niederreiter's got another year. New Jersey could try and win with him for 1.5 years. Nashville shores up a defense, which on the third pairing is not great, but this pushes everybody down, and I think it makes it better. And they could still make a trade to get another offensive player at the deadline, but I think they need to shore up their defense more if they want to kind of stay at this level.
I like Russ's trade, but I thought he already traded him to Vancouver.
Listen, that was the other day, Kev. That fell through.
Oh, it did. Oh, it fell through. Okay. All right. Now I understand better. Because I was pretty sure you traded him already.
I did.
I've heard Carolina would like Niederreiter back. I heard that.
Yeah, they didn't really want to lose him. I think you're right on that. They did not want to lose, and he was very popular with the fan base there.
And
the fan base didn't want to lose him, and they need scores.
How I was told, and you can tell me if this is right or not, Kevin, that they got into a big pissing match about salary eventually, and he's like, "I'm going," and then he didn't get what he really wanted out there either.
No.
So now there's a situation where he could come back a little bit humbly and say, "Okay, well, whatever."
The only problem with that is, has anyone looked at the standings lately? Like Nashville's still right there.
No, they're not. So
well, that's why Russ's move makes sense, because it's a lateral move in terms of them getting Severson, who makes up the same amount of money. That's why it helps their blue line.
Yeah, which I think they're going to need in that.
Well, because Carrier got hurt right before the break. So
right.
Okay. Kev, Dallas Stars.
Yeah, I think the Dallas Stars, actually, I have them making a Joe Pavelski phone call to Patrick Kane, and they don't have a 23 first rounder, I don't think.
Yeah.
And I think so they would have to offer a 24 first rounder, and I think they'll offer like a first, a third, and a fourth, and Chicago was going to say a first and a second and a prospect. So I don't know if they'll get there, but Dallas believes it can compete. So I think they're going to try to get someone significant, and I think they would like to get somebody that can be, in their mind, a difference maker. So no one's talking about Dallas getting Kane, but I think they're going to try to do something that'll really create some energy in the dressing room.
I had St. Louis, and of course, it's focused on Ryan O'Reilly. And in spite of my sort of want to arrange a Toronto Ryan O'Reilly deal, the one I thought was more likely would be Carolina. And I had them trading a conditional first 2023 that could slide to 2024 based on, where they, but they're going to be low enough in the standings. That's going to be a low first round pick. Noel Gunler, who's their best prospect, and Jackson Blake, the son of Jason Blake, who's one of their lower round picks from a few years ago, who played in the World Junior for Team USA. I think that kind of package Doug Armstrong would do for O'Reilly. Now, the thing is, if O'Reilly wants to stay in St. Louis, which has been rumored around there, and he is amenable to a short-term deal, then all this stuff goes by the wayside. But I think he's going to end up getting traded, and that's a guy that we're going to be tracking over the next 3 or 4 weeks, Zach.
I think it's possible. It's still only happening at like 60% he's traded. I still think there's like 40% chance he stays there. I'm leaning more.
Yeah, I did want to bring that up. I said last time that I had finally heard. I know Russ and Mike have been on him moving a lot, and I said last time, all right, you guys won me over because I've also heard you're going to trade. After I said that, I don't know if the person was watching or not, sent me a thing and said, not so fast. He thinks Armstrong put that out there because he wants him to feel more pressure and accept a lower salary, that they want him. He wants to stay. There's plenty of reason for him to stay. So that don't count on it. So I don't know what to believe now. When
it comes to St. Louis, I think the guarantee is that Barbashev gets traded, and probably Tarasenko, because they're not going to re-sign Tarasenko.
They're trying. Tarasenko's got haters and detractors out there too.
Tarasenko might be the guy who ends up going to Vegas, Zach, because
that could be. I mean, Kevin, with Kane or and Dallas. I mean, you already said you think he wants to go to New York. So, but which I know he does too. But it's still like doesn't mean that they're not going to get a better offer.
Well, what we haven't heard is how the Rangers feel about that.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? There's been a lot of discussion about what Patrick Kane wants, but it would cause some consternation to make him work. There in terms of the salary cap and everything else. Now they did make the Reeves move early, which seemed to set up the idea that they were starting to create some room. So I don't know. I mean, that's all based on the fact that he likes Panarin. He thinks it would be fun to reunite.
Oh yeah, no, he definitely wants to go there. But now if you're trying to convince him, because he can obviously control his destiny between Dallas and Vegas. Obviously Pavelski is a buddy, right? No question about that.
Right, Ryan Suter.
Yeah.
But if he's calculating based on who's got a better chance of winning a Stanley Cup, Dallas I think has a much better chance of coming out of the West.
I don't know.
I mean, Ottinger in goal over Logan Thompson. I think their defense is better. I think they're deep. I think they're just as deep up front. And Vegas has got the injury question marks. So
I mean, I probably would agree with you, Mike. But don't you think it's like 60-40? Like I don't think it's overwhelming.
It's close enough, and you do add the benefit if he's going to a team that can now bring Mark Stone back in. So it's like you're talking about a team that because they're not going to have to. He's going back to a team that we don't know Mark Stone's going to come back, but Patrick Kane's been in that exact situation, has come back, right? He's been the LTIR guy and come back at the end of the year like Kucherov did.
And if Colorado gets their number 2 center in a trade and everybody comes back healthy, then they shoot by everybody in terms of.
I mean, I totally. In agreement with Monahan, by the way.
Saying that, though, I mean, with Colorado, like, we're down right to Landeskog, right? That he's the only one, and I just wanted to make sure I'm right on this before we go. But like the last time I looked, they're still down in the 20s in terms of goal scoring. Like,
exactly.
I don't understand why, now that everybody's back, like, why they're not scoring any goals.
Well, because JT Compher and Evan Rodriguez are terrible number 2 centers. They're pretty decent number 3s, but you had Nazem Kadri had a career best. He had I think he had close to or over 100 points last year. It was a career year for him, but he's a really good playmaker. It took a lot of heat off of McKinnon when they were both in the lineup and in the playoffs. So that was tough to replace, and Evan Rodriguez doesn't do that.
Well, but Evan Rodriguez has been pretty good for them.
No, I'm not saying he's a bad player. I just think he's one spot up in the lineup than he.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I mean, the loss of Kadri was thing, but I'm looking now just to see. Well, they have climbed up. They've climbed from 25th. They're now 20th. Right. But they're still scoring 3 goals per game. Let's look what they've done in the last 10 games or so. But it's just funny to me that. Landeskog was a big part of it as well, but that team, its hallmark is scoring goals, and when I watched them, I thought, man, it seems hard for them to score goals.
And Makar is way off, Makar's way off this year, as well.
Well, he couldn't possibly be what.
Right, no, exactly. But so that's why when you compare it to last year, there's certain things about last year that may have been a little bit. They might have looked a little bit better than.
Well, but I'm not comparing them last year. I'm comparing them to the other teams. Like 20th, that means you're in the bottom, 1/3 of the scoring. And I'll be here in a second, then we'll see what they've done, lately. Maybe they've picked up on goals, and I just. You can't keep track of absolutely everybody.
Going into this season, I thought Colorado and St. Louis were the 2 best teams in the conference. I thought Colorado and St. Louis were the 2 best teams in the conference.
It just seems they're not as dynamic this year in terms of, when you used to turn them on, you were always expecting it to, be up and down, and, they were, doing a lot. Okay, let's see.
Nikushkin's still hurt too. That's another really big
name.
But
Nikushkin's back hurt because he came back.
Yeah.
And then he's hurt again. So that's fair. Okay, let's see what they've done lately in terms of goals. So in their last 4 games, they've had 2, 3, 3, 4. They scored 4 against St. Louis. Well, prior to that, though, prior to that, they had 4, 4, 6, 7. So they have picked it up.
They're tuning it
up. So they have 13, 17, 21, 23, 26, 33 in their last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So they're averaging 4 goals per game in their last.
It's a little bit like the Penguins teams, like right after they won the Stanley Cup sometimes, where the Penguins teams would just be hanging around, and then they decide to play all of a sudden, and it would be hard.
Yeah. You can account for the injuries and the Stanley Cup hangover, which some people.
In this case, I think there's a legit Stanley Cup hangover in this case, but I think that comes from a lot of everybody playing so much hockey in a short period of time. I think there's a legit hangover.
Speaking of teams, though, really, I do think the Carolina Hurricanes have to do something. They're a very good team, and they have the second best record in the league essentially. And but I do think they need a little more scoring, just a little more. Like
Ryan O'Reilly would be perfect for them.
And Freddie Anderson has been terrific since he came back. But they've got their ace in the hole too.
I think O'Reilly fits their sort of Brindamore's 2-way ethic, but Kevin is right. I do think they need somebody who's more of a pure scorer, but I don't know if that guy is available. I don't really know, if you could say Tarasenko, but if I'm Don Waddell and you're asking me who I would rather have in a playoff scenario, Ryan O'Reilly or Tarasenko, I want O'Reilly.
Yeah, and that they could, the fact that he's a center, I think that's right, but the cost for Tarasenko is a lot less than.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and Tarasenko, I think they would be interested in Tarasenko.
Yeah, he definitely adds pure scoring for sure. No question about it. Well, that's all the time we have for today, folks. Thanks very much. Enjoy. I'm glad they all started things over, so we don't have to fight about it anymore. Getting back into the regular season and getting back into hockey, and now 25 days to the trade deadline as of today. So remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.